So hello everyone, great to be here. I'll be talking today about a very specific topic, which is like releasing tasks in enterprise, which is very, I think, problematic. The presentation will be based on our customer's story, but it will be, let's say, generalized to make it more clear, I hope. And also because we have some NDA with the customer, so we can just, tell what the customer name is, but it's like from the gambling industry, all I can say. And my name is Filip, I'm a partner manager in release management. And our company was founded in 2020. And headquarters is really in Poland, but the guys are based in Ukraine mostly, but we have also office in US. We have 6 apps on the marketplace, and I would say that it's like, I am really proud that we won like several Partner of the Year awards, because we have a team less than 20 people, and still we can compete with big marketplace vendors. And you can see the guys here on the photos. So the guys in the black shirts aren't from release management, they just came for the photo here. And our average rating, which is also, I think, very good, which is like 3.6 on 4 on the marketplace. So based on our customer story, I think that all of you experience that there's like the biggest trends we are seeing is like the acceleration. So everything is speeding up. So startups wanna build fast, they wanna fail fast. So enterprises wanna deliver fast, ship faster, and your kids wanna grow, they are growing. So technology has evolved to support this. And for example, in our customer example, they came from this, I would say, single monolith infrastructure into the multi-component architecture, distributed teams, decoupled systems. It's like a great for agility, I would say. So DevOps and Agile works perfectly in that kind of environments, and they are supporting this, and they are de facto standards here. So if you look at the standard product development flow in that teams, it's like very easy to understand. So we could be able to develop like a user stories, resolve bugs, and 2 tasks in this kind of very simple workflow. And what is great, you can release them, these tasks, independently. So you don't need to care about like the whole picture, really. So you can deploy every single task in the production just like that. And it's like also, I think, very supportive for this, let's say, customer needs. You are very responsive for that. But at some point, let's say you will reach the critical mass, where your developers are so good that your teams will develop multiple products. So you will have like this environment of many products, many teams. And also, what is the case, your products will be interconnected between each other. So that means when you're delivering value for the customer, it's usually the whole solution, just composed of these many products. But that's not all. In our customer case, the problem is that this customer is specifically in the gambling industry, So there's like a very specific rules when you can just release software, because there are some kind of rules seamed in the software. For example, how much money can be given back to the players or like the gamblers, and how much money will stay with the company. And there are very strict rules about this. So you need to be very careful about the compliance here. But that's not all. You also need to think about the integration testing, performance testing, a lot of kinds of testing when you'll be managing that number of products. But that's not all. There's also, before releasing into production, there's like a change management. So you need to also consider this process, like a cab and other people that will need to approve your product before going into production. That means that you cannot think of releasing tasks on this, let's say, level of the team. So you need to think of like a bigger entity. So this entity can be called like artifact, or like a release, or like a version. So it will help you to manage that single tasks, because it will be really unbearable to manage them, get compliance for each single task. I need to think to pack them into something bigger. And then you can think of the bigger blocks. So you can have like a workflow like this. So you can have like some kind of products, and you can think of the drops of this artifact or releases in a timeline for each product. And you can also take into account this interconnection between them, because usually in the enterprise environment you have like APIs, you have data flow between the products or these artifacts, so you need to consider all of that. But what also brings you can also think on the solution level then. So you can think of composing these artifacts into something bigger, which is called the solution, and then thinking of managing change management, like compliance on that bigger level. So it makes like more easier with managing that. So, but does it mean that Agile DevOps is not applicable for the enterprise? What do you think? Well, it is. So on the solution level, you can still managing the tasks on the development, on the team side, it will be working very well. But if you will just be closing to this, I would say, artifact or solution stage, you will need to think about these bigger bricks, because it will help you to manage the whole product. So other benefits is that on this team level, you can have your Kanban, Scrum, Waterfall team working in their workflows, in their boards, for example, in Jira. So you don't need to, let's say, change the way that your teams are working. But you can add some kind of common denominator, like a workflow, which makes these teams, let's say, managing it in a more, let's say, common way. So you can just define the steps in this workflow and managing this task in a more efficient way. But also, on the solution level, you can have another workflow. For example, because when you are releasing, let's say, artifacts on the solution level, you need to think about integration and affairs. For example, you need to think about marketing team, because they need, for example, have some messaging about your product release. So before going to the production, there's another workflow you can think of. So what about Jira? How Jira works? So Jira is like I like to call them like a buckets. I mean, of course, this is like a very, I would say, black and white presentation, so sorry for that. So usually you have one team working on one project, so in their bucket. So usually teams sometimes have a problem to understand which other teams are working on. But what Jira doesn't cover is like the releases. I don't know how many of you are like using releases in Jira, because there's like very, very simplified workflow. There's only 2 statuses, and it's like very hard to get this information about releases on the higher level. So this is like a problem, and Jira lacks of it. What is needed is like the solution level. So Jira also lacks this kind of, let's say, composing these releases into solutions. So this is also the layer that Jira is lacking. So here, where all in white release management is coming, so we developed a product that is covering that part. So first of all, we have this common denominator workflow, which is like composing of releases. So this card is like on the Kanban board, but it's not a task. It's like composing of tasks behind them. So you can just manage many tasks in the single release. And we can also have the integration with CI/CD servers. So for example, moving from one stage to another can trigger automatically the, for example, release on your environments. We can also integrate it with Bitbucket and GitLab, so all your information about the deployments and commits are all into one single place. We can also have like some additional data, like metadata that will add some additional information on your releases. And what is very important, we can also have these projects, multi-project releases. Here is like the best example. So you can just base all the scope from many Jira projects into one single place. So it's like a just workflow you can build. Of course, you can define the workflow for yourself. We have like a default one, but you can use it for your own. And of course, each step of the workflow can be validated. So you can also put some kind of rules and do some kind of, I don't know, notifications or other triggers. We have also automations engine that is like working also with Jira. So we can also have trigger some kind of rules for Jira. And we also, as I mentioned, have this workflow on this artifact level or solution or release level. But sometimes when, especially in the banking environment, or like just multiple products which are connected, so one change will cause change in another system. So this is like and you need to deliver value for the customer. So here you can have another workflow, which is composing of these releases on the solution level. And here is the workflow can look different. For example, you can have, as I mentioned, this marketing here is not present. But for example, you have this post-life analysis because of the solution. You need to also check how it works when it was finally released. So we have also other features. Of course, everyone loves Kanban, but if someone prefers roadmap, there's like a roadmap view. So you can also track all the releases on the roadmap, have it like the milestones and the dependencies between the releases, so you can track them all. And of course, this is live, so if you will just adjust some changes and move it in time, so all the fields in Jira will be properly changed. Of course, if someone likes calendar view, I mean, mostly it is used for people who don't usually use Jira, but you can just send a link to Google or like a Microsoft calendar, so people who usually should be interested in the release, they will get informed about where this production release will be finally done. And of course, we have release notes templates. It's like very highly automated, so you can build templates for release notes, which can be pushed to Confluence or like other documents, or just put it somewhere in Jira. So you can just very easily release all the information about the current releases, so it's like always on the one place. And of course, some people hate it, but they need to also manage the environment. So you can also define the environment on which your solutions or like releases are being stored. So you can also manage and check like which of the releases is currently in the production, on which stage, when it was released, and for example, what was the current build number. So this is especially important if you have like widespread company and you are using many environments. And of course, we are delivering the reports, so you can have like burn up, burn out reports, which is like implemented in the solution, so you can always be on track and track your releases. So thank you very much.